Welcome back to the shed and welcome back to Coffee Corner Motorsport, Full Beans the podcast. This is your Formula One roundup show, Espresso News, where I bring you all of the latest from the paddock to the podcast via the shed. It's been a while, hasn't it? Since the last podcast, we've got a new number one, we've got a new number three on the Formula One grid, and we also know what to expect for 2026. So, what am I going to look at this week? We're going to be looking at a quick roundup of last season and some highlights from me, and then we're going to delve into these Formula One 2026 regulations. I've come armed with my summary document that's been sent to me by Formula One, and yeah, we're going to try and break these down and try and simplify some of these so that we all know what to expect when racing returns in what is about 80 days or so. So, if all of that takes your fancy, we are in the winter break, so a quick favour from me. Follow, like, subscribe, whatever is available to you on a platform you're listening to. 2026 is going to be some epic year, and I can't wait to show you what I've been up to behind the scenes. So the only way you'll know is to hit that like, follow, subscribe button. Let's get into it. Okay, Formula One World Championship. Lando Norris is the 35th member to be crowned a Formula One World Champion. He, of course, beat Max Verstappen by just 2 points in the end. Reality, yes, it was an amazing comeback by Max Verstappen, don't get me wrong. But I still stand by what I've been saying all season. I don't feel that he should have been in that fight from the first place. I feel McLaren should have prioritised team orders and they should have boxed it off long before. However, the reality is quite simple. Lando Norris is the 2025 Formula One World Champion. Now, I alluded to in the start of the show there that he's going to take number one next year. He's already confirmed that. And we today had confirmation that Max Verstappen is not returning to number 33. He's, in fact, going to take Daniel Ricciardo's number 3 because the new regulations let you change your driver number. And he will be number 3 for 2026. So, yeah, I don't know what other drivers going to change their numbers. I know Charles Leclerc at one point wanted 7, didn't he? But he couldn't have it because of Kimi Raikkonen coming into the sport. It's going to be interesting to see if a lot of drivers change. I know a lot of branding, a lot of sort of logos are entwined in sort of people's numbers and stuff. So I'm not too sure how many will get done. But yeah, Max Verstappen is going to be the new number 3 on the Formula One grid, and Lando Norris will be the new number 1 when they come back. Last season, I thought the race itself in Abu Dhabi wasn't the best race, far from it. Lando obviously did what he had to do. McLaren boxed really clever by having Oscar Piastri putting the pressure on Max Verstappen, not allowing Max to back the pack up. It was a really smart move by McLaren. It also left Lando in the position of comfort where they could have deployed team orders if they wanted to, which they'd already alluded to they were going to do. So I think that actually McLaren, after what was a complete mess in Qatar the week before, actually got the tactics spot on, didn't they, in Abu Dhabi? And yeah, Lando Norris is a champion. With regards to the standout performances, Mercedes somehow getting second is a standout performance. They didn't really look like a team who was second in the constructors, but then I don't think anybody else wanted second in the constructors. We then have Williams in 5th place. What a season from then. Carlos Sainz obviously getting 2 podiums. First time since, I think, 2015, I want to say off the top of my head, that Williams have had multiple podiums. But let's not actually ignore the contribution that Alex Albon had in that role as well. Alex Albon, certainly in the first half of the season, was performing really well. I think he's been overshadowed by Carlos's podiums and Carlos's second half of the season, if I'm honest. But I think that Alex performed really well and was a instrumental figure in not only getting that team to be in the position to get 5th place, but also capitalising points-wise on that one. Ferrari, a lot of talk, of course, over the winter. Lewis Hamilton, absolutely nightmare season for him. You can't really say anything else from that. Red Bull, we know what's happening. Obviously, Isaac Hatch has been promoted up. And we also know that with regards to what they look like next season, it's going to be very different with the news that Helmut Marko is leaving as well, his role for the Red Bull development drivers. We don't know. Rocky is taking over at the moment, which is obviously Seb's former race engineer in terms of the short term. We don't know what that means for driver contracts, whether or not that's just looking after the academy drivers. Obviously, Visa Cash Out Racing Bulls will have Arvid Lindblad and they will have Liam Lawson as well. They finished, where did they finish? They finished 6th behind Williams. I think they see that as a disappointment. And obviously, if you're a Williams fan, you won't do because you were the better team out of them. But I think they will see that as a bit of a disappointment. They obviously had the podium with Isaac Hasher. And if I'm honest, the car was probably a more settled of the midfield cars, so probably should have done better. But they had that spot in the middle, didn't they, where they kind of went off the boil and had some problems with that. We've then got Aston Martin and the Haas. Haas's great performance from them. Aston Martin, I think they'll be happy with the extended wind tunnel time. Obviously, Adrian Newey is the new team principal going into 2026. Lots and lots of change rounds there as well. I think they'd be happy with their performance. It's a consolidating season for them. It's a season where, if I'm honest, they're just going to go, actually, we got what we wanted out of it. We weren't going to win races or get podiums, so we consolidated, got some good wind tunnel time for Adrian to play catch-up. After, of course, he was delayed and started with the team after finishing that garden leave with Red Bull. So I think all in all, they'd be quite happy with that one. We've then got Sauber and, of course, Alpine towards the back end. Some strong performances. Nico Hulkenberg podiums springs to mind for that one. Gabriel Bortoletti got better as the season went on and car got developed. We obviously now know the details for Audi coming on. 20th of January is their car launch. I'll see if I can put up the car launch as well. We'll go through them before the end of the podcast. Just a reminder, these will be livery launches, not car launches. So expect to see a lot of the 2026 show car sort of rendering that we saw in 2022 with just livery on them, not the actual cars themselves. So if you are looking for details on that front, you're going to be a bit disappointed. Pre-season will be starting for the team. January has pre-season testing. We've got 5 days in Barcelona. The teams are allowed to take 3 out of those 5 days. That's to allow for incremental weather. There is no media accreditation. There is no media there. There might be some, sneaky shots and stuff. The FIA apparently asked the teams to be running camo livery if you've not already done your livery launch, in case there's any leaks, etc., etc. And then we obviously Bahrain. The first testing is going to have a roundup sort of media coverage, but not an in-depth one. Certainly from the Sky coverage. We saw Crofty at Silverstone on Sunday, and he was on about that with Anthony Davison. Really, really insightful, nice, especially with the new regulations coming up. So if you get a chance to listen to Anthony Davison talking anywhere, certainly about new regulations, I suggest you take it, because what he told us was really, really insightful, to be honest, and come away from it a lot more knowledgeable, just spending a couple of hours in his company there with the Silverstone Racing Club. So yeah, if you've got an event or podcast or anything which has got Anthony Davison talking about new regulations, then keep your eye out for that one and tune into it, because he really explained them really well. Crofty at that event confirmed that pre-season testing is going to be, like I say, a roundup one in the first testing in Bahrain. Then the second set of testing in Bahrain is going to be back to the normal format that we're used to with Formula One and pre-season testing. So yeah, that's your quick roundup to all of what's going on in the Formula One world. It is quiet. We are about to hit shutdown. We have got a winter shutdown as well as a summer shutdown. Expect your social media feeds to either be very devoid of official information. We've seen loads this week. So Concorde Agreement, so let's just talk about that one. Concorde Agreement's got some extra money for the FIA. Now, the governance part has been what's holding this one up. The actual part where they sorted the commercial side out was done all the way back in March. We've been waiting for this part, which is governance. The FIA have got more money to basically grow with the sport. Their argument has been actually quite a valid one. They're saying that we're now doing 24 races, we've got 6 lots of sprints, etc., and we need more funding for that. To get more funding is through the Concorde Agreement in terms of the FIA. So they've got more funding for that. What it does not mean that we've got guaranteed professional stewards or anything like that. So please don't think that this is directly leading into that. It doesn't shut the door. Likewise, the Concorde Agreement, as always, is very sparse of detail. What it does say is the FIA have got more funding, but it doesn't tell you how or what they're going to spend it on. It just says about improving stewards, but it doesn't shut the door completely on having professional stewards, but then it doesn't guarantee that you're going to have professional stewards either. So there's a deep dive article on that over on the website, which as always is www.coffeecornermotorsport.com. If you'd like to read up on some of these things with a bit more detail than what the videos give you, the website's the place to do that. It's got lots of explainers in there. They are at the moment very governance orientated. I apologise for that one, but that is the news coming out. Like I say, everyone's trying to cram it out before the winter break. But yeah, Concorde Agreement is all signed. It includes all 11 teams, so obviously Cadillac are a part of that now as well. And yeah, not much difference in it, to be honest. We know that Cadillac are paying the anti-dilution fee to join. That secures the prize money dividends being paid out the same way. So a lot of the normal side of the Concorde Agreement is still the same as what it has been. The teams have been happy with it. They're making a lot of money from it. So from their point of view, there wasn't a lot to change on it. And like I say, there's been some pushback by the FIA. I also think they've had a few concessions put into it as well, that we're probably going to see a bit more of in terms of wresting some power back from Formula One that maybe has drifted their way, which wasn't tied down in the old Concorde Agreement. I think the FIA have kind of flexed their muscles and got some back that way. Mohammed Ben Sulayem is doing another term. We knew that was coming. That's not a surprise to anybody. He's obviously been elected unopposed. I got criticised for using the words elected unopposed, but it is elected unopposed because it was an election. 91.5% of the vote. I don't know what the rest voted on. They clearly didn't vote. But yeah, 91.5% of the vote, and he is secure. There is legal action from Laura Villas that's going into court in February. However, looking at the statutes and looking at the guidelines from the FIA, I don't really see a legal avenue for it to be challenged. I think it's more of a moral avenue, if I'm being honest. So it'd be interesting to see what the courts do with that one, because from what I can see and what I've read, certainly, whilst it may not have been a popular choice, what the FIA president did, there wasn't anything illegal about what he did. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to see where that one goes. It kind of reminds me of the Felipe Massa case in the sense of it's going to be talking a lot about being open, being transparent, all these things that people feel the FIA should be, but ironically, none of them are illegal or against their statutes, which means they can still do it. And I think that's it. I think that's the roundup. I think that's it. So in terms of 2025, that's gone. We said goodbye to DRS. We said goodbye to Sauber. And we say hello to Cadillac. And yeah, it's been a long season. One thing I will say is a huge thank you for sticking out with the podcast. It started off really well, trying to get the weekly ones in. Towards the end of the season, I really struggled. I'm not afraid to admit that. I've said on this podcast many times before, I am a one-person band. I hate putting shit content out, if I'm being honest, and it drives me crazy. And you'd be surprised how many podcasts don't even make the cutting room because I just refuse to put them out when they're rubbish. I really appreciate all the support that I get, especially on the podcast and things. 2026 will be better. I know it's that every year, but I do feel we got better. I feel we have more podcasts this year. I feel we have better quality. And with what's coming in 2026, I feel pretty confident that actually you're going to enjoy some changes that we're making to Coffee Corner Motorsport. Coffee Corner Motorsport has grown. It's no longer a TikTok page. It's a full-blown media outlet with teams sending press releases and reports on it, which the one thing I will say is hopefully you will see that you're still getting that factual up-to-date news that you've always got. And if anything, it's even more cemented now that it's being backed up with official media from Formula One and other places like that. So I feel really comfortable with it. I was comfortable with how I got my news anyway. I feel even more comfortable that we're getting it from official sources direct now. That's also enabled us to be a lot faster with some of these things. We don't have to wait to verify it and get it sort of third hand, which is something I had to do before. Now it's arriving to me, which makes life a whole lot easier. It means I can distribute it as I want to. And 2026 regulations is a prime example. So in front of me, I have got the summary document that's been sent by Formula One through their media. So I can go through this. We can talk about this with confidence, knowing that this is what's happening. Let's take a sip of the coffee before we get into 2026, shall we? Let's take a moment because, yeah, I feel the opposition warming up now about how this isn't good for the sport. So let's just start off the caveat, right? Everyone has got nerves about the changing regulations. Everyone's got trepidation. I share those concerns. I share those fears. I share that we're going to be in a world of engine management rather than actually good racing. But what I will say is we didn't have good racing in 2025. We had cars that over the course of the season, on paper, looked a lot closer. Reality is dirty air meant they couldn't overtake. So from that point of view, yes, we had closer racing, but we didn't have better racing. So my hope is that these new regulations will go somewhat towards helping with that and giving us better racing. And the reason I think that they might, because there is a lot more for the driver to do and a lot more tools in their armory to do it with. And this is my hope. My hope is, yes, they might seem a bit Mario Karty. They might seem a bit like we're sim racing. However, these tools, if deployed in the right way and some teams getting them right, could just make some really exciting racing that can actually be done by the drivers for the first time in a long time. Now, that's not to say it will, and I'm not going to sit here and guarantee that it will because I'm not that stupid. But I have a hope that they will, and I really think that with what the drivers have got in their arsenal to basically deploy on a track, yes, there's a lot more to think about. There's also a lot more where we haven't got set DRS things. We haven't got set zones where drivers know that if they back up on these zones, DRS is going to kick in and they're going to be able to get around it that way. We've got a lot more surprise elements. We've got a lot more around the sort of changes they're making, a lot more opportunities where there could be overtakes. So with that in mind, I want you to join me in keeping a very open mind about these regulations until we've seen them on the track before we just bin them off and just say that they're a bunch of crap. Because ultimately, the racing that we've had over the past couple of years hasn't been solid racing at all. Yes, it's been closer racing, but I don't define closer as being good. That's my point. So, yeah, let's get into this. We've got a document. Now, this document is around the jargon. Now, we all heard about MOM or MOM, and we all heard about what an absolute, let's be honest, a piss take people were taking out of that. So, the whole point behind this document is changing the narrative around some of the wording that's being used. So, these are the wording that basically Formula One have gone out with, not just the teams, not just sponsors, but also with focus groups as well. And the FIA have been involved in this. And in essence, they've gone out and they've talked about what it is, so they included a third-party polling data, 50,000 strong community fan voice. So a lot of these have been discussed with fans before they've been brought in. And the hope is that by using these fan-friendly terms, we can understand them a lot more when they hit our screens in sort of February, March time when the season kicks off. Because ultimately, any change in regulations, if they're hard to follow, will lead to a large people turning off the actual sport. And that's what Formula One are really worried about. They're really worried that if it's too technical, too complicated, people will just go, "Joe, what? I ain't here for that." Turn it off and off we go. So 2026 is, of course, a huge moment. We've got both the chassis and the power units being updated. It is the biggest overhaul in the sport's history. Make no mistake about that. This is huge. This is monumental. This is historic either way. So this is a summary of what we got. So we've got smaller and lighter. I laugh at this one. And the reason I say this is wheelbase reduced by 200 millimeters, so 20 centimeters, width by 100 millimeters, so 10 centimeters, and the floor width cut by 150 millimeters. The minimum weight is down 30 kilograms, so it will now be 770 kilograms. All designed to make the cars more agile and more responsive. That's the plan. Like I say, I feel they haven't gone aggressive enough. I said this on many of the podcasts before. Followers of me will know this. Reduced downforce. So the downforce is reduced by anything from 15 to 30%. And of course, ground effect floor tunnels have gone. So those intricate ventry tunnels that we saw underneath every time we saw a car hoisted in the air, like at Monaco, places like that. What's happened now is there's literally much more simpler tunnels. So they're not completely gone, but they're not as complicated as what they were. They were almost sort of like a tunnel network, weren't they? The ones we saw towards the end of the regulations. They're not like that now. Active aerodynamics. This is what they termed when it first came out, X and Y. You'll notice a lot of this is probably stuff you've heard about, but it's been rebranded into a more user-friendly term. It's probably the best way to describe it. So this is movable front and rear wings. It replaces the DRS for high and low downforce configurations, and it enables extra grip and speed where the drivers need it most. So the whole point is on the straight it will open, on the corners it will close, and that way it will reduce the drag and it will allow you to get grip where you want it and to get the straight line speed where you want it. Tyres will remain 18 inches, but they will have 25 millimeters narrower on the front, and the rear will be 30 millimeters narrower. Now, remember, Pirelli have already confirmed we got 5 compounds. So C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. There is no C6 compound. They basically saw that there was no point in having the C6 compound. One, it would have hardly been used, and secondly, it didn't give much of a performance gain. So rather than put 6 compounds in and waste a load of money, they just went, "You know what, we'll stick with 5. We haven't got the mud guards that go over, the sort of arches that go over. That was obviously to deploy the air over the car into the side of the car. They've completely gone, so they're more open rimmed to force the air through the suspension more. That will mean a increased focus on the aerodynamics rather than what we had before where it pushed it out and over. That's disappeared. I've seen some contrasting things about all of the wheels. Now, the wheels all look open in terms of no wheel covers on all of the renders, but I don't know if that's mandated or not. There's a really complicated wording in the document about these covers that go on the wheels, and basically I don't know if you can keep them open and teams will, or whether or not you got to put the covers on like we had in the previous generation. But all the renders that I'm seeing have got open covers, and back to, I suppose, like the Oz style wheels. Yeah, the really nice looking ones, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. Power units, 50-50 split, shift to approximately 50% internal combustion, ICE, and 50% electrical power. The MGU-H has been removed. The MGU-K has been increased significantly. That's gone from 120 kilowatts all the way up to 350 kilowatts. That is going to apparently help with enhanced overtaking and straight line speed. Sustainable fuel. Now, cars will run on advanced sustainable fuel without impacting the performance. This is a real bugbear for the teams. It's costing a lot of money. It's costing a lot more than what they envisaged. There is a loophole in this, and that is you have different fuel suppliers doing different things with your fuel. This could be a big performance gain that people aren't actually expecting. So obviously, Petronas are going to do obviously Mercedes. You've got Shell doing Ferrari, Aramco doing Aston Martin. You've got all of these various tie-ups. BP will be doing one. Alpine is normally BP. No, BP have gone to Audi. Castor is probably going to be Alpine off the top of my head. So some of them haven't been confirmed, but there are a lot of, sort of sustainable fuel suppliers in this. And there is performance to be had in this, is what Anthony Davison was alluding to. And I think this is a very untapped area that people haven't realised yet. But either way, they will be sustainable. And what all this means is ultimately, this is where they talk about the drivers taking centre stage. This is what I said at the top of the show. For me, I feel this is a really good era for drivers to show you how good they are, because they have the opportunity to not just wait for a DRS zone to overtake someone or to undercut someone in the pits, which is what we had. Let's be honest about it. Mass overtakes we had previously were due to weather, due to safety car strategy, or due to the fact that something happened which allowed teams to do it. There wasn't that many races where it was amazing wheel to wheel, lots of overtaking. There was a couple, don't get me wrong, but there certainly wasn't a lot. And this is the point around the broadcast. So this is what they've ensured that the content broadcasters, spokespeople, advocate, and obviously fans as well are aligned on the common language. First up is the overtake mode. The function for this, for drivers within 1 second of a car in front to deploy extra power to instigate an overtake. It replaces DRS and aids on-track passing, being a strategic tool to be used all in one go or spread over a lap. Similar to DRS, there will be a detection point, probably towards like the last corner, something like that. They have to be within 1 second to the car in front. When they get past that detection point, they will get an extra boost to use that overtake button. Now, as the description says, the reality of this is you've got 1 lap to use it, and you can either dump it in one go on a straight, or you can actually spread it over the course of a lap and use it in various different places. So this could be key to actually overtaking. The drivers, it's up to them where and how they deploy this, and that's going to make it a lot more interesting to do rather than your wing's going to open at a set point on the track. So you still need to be within 1 second, but you've got the whole lap before you use it. Then we've got the boost mode. So this is where it's getting a bit of a Formula E comparison. The boost mode is going to be used by all of the drivers, no matter where they are on the track. So you've got the overtake mode, which you have to be within 1 second. The boost mode, you don't have to be within 1 second. And basically, this is a driver-operated energy deployment from the energy recovery system, the gears, and to be used offensively or defensively, depending on your track position. It gives the driver maximum power from the engine and the battery at a push of a button, no matter where they are. So again, you can deploy that wherever you want to. But again, you're going to be limited to how much of that you can use, depending on how much you recharge, and we'll come on to that one in a minute, and what you do with it. So that's where you're going to. But what I've understood is if you're an overtaking driver and you're within 1 second, I think you might have the potential to actually have both of those, which should make overtaking a lot more sort of cleaner in terms of getting some speed on that one. I haven't seen that clarified, but that's my understanding is you should have both available to you. So the defending one will be able to use their battery, but you'll still have that overtake mode available to make the move and make it stick. So we've then got active aero, which is your front and rear wings, dynamically adjustable angles of the front and rear wing elements in specific high-speed sections designed for corner and straight modes. It enables strategic adaptability and maximizes full usage. The main reason behind this is they need something to reduce the drag to save on the battery life, and that's why this has come into it. They struggle with the battery life on these cars. We heard all about how these cars can run at a massive speed, but they won't be able to maintain the sort of distance. We know that from Formula E and the technology already in Formula E. So Formula E has got some really quick racing, but what they can't do is they can't do a 60, 70 lap race. That's the issue with Formula E in terms of doing a full race. That's why a lot of those are split more into race 1 and race 2. And you remember the old days in Formula E where we had to swap cars over. So yes, battery deployment is great. Yes, you can get some good speed out of battery deployment, but only if you can still use that petrol part and go race distance. Without that side of it, you would be looking at half the race distance again, and that would just be rubbish. So that's what active aero is also there for. And then the final one is recharge. Now, this is drivers can recharge their battery with recovered energy from braking, on throttle lift at the end of straights, and even corners. So this is where it's going to be, again, another driver aid. So you've got the driver is able to adapt how much energy they harvest back into their system. If you've got an electric car, you'll know what I mean. Take your foot off the brake early, and if you've got it in the right setting, it will harvest all the energy back in and put more into your battery. That's the same being applied to these Formula 1 cars in a nutshell, that you'll be able to look at where you do that. So if you're in a corner and you lift off mid-throttle, what you'll actually be doing is saving a bit of power, putting that back into your battery, and then be able to use it with the boost mode, basically, is where that one's going in. So you can see how they all tie in together. You can see what I mean now by lots of overtakes, lots of opportunity here. You've got overtake mode, you've got boost mode, you've got recharge. Active aero, don't be fooled by active aero. It's not replacing DRS, because every driver is going to have it and every driver is going to be able to deploy it, and most drivers will deploy it at the same time. Active aero is not an overtaking mechanism at all. It's not here for that. It's not designed for that. So I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of difference now. I think we'll be seeing people literally open and shut it as and when their opponents do it on track. I don't think we'll be seeing a lot of difference on that one. I think that'd be, a set time to open it, set time to close it, to do what you need to do with that one. So I'm not counting the active aero as a real responsibility in terms of overtaking. That's more of a battery saving mechanism that's being put onto the cars to help with that one. But you recharge is basically what's going to charge your battery, and then your boost and your overtake are going to be the way you deploy those batteries. Overtake will be if you within 1 second in that detection point. The actual boost mode will be available to all drivers at all times, no matter what. But when it's gone, it's gone. Again, you can use it. So you can see this difference in where and how you deploy it. Hopefully, we can create, some of the drivers. We've seen some great overtakes. I think back to Max and Imola, where I think that, that overtake on that corner there. We've seen, Lando do it a couple of times. We've seen Oscar do it a couple of times as well. So I'm hoping that with this ability to deploy your energy in a different way, we might see overtaking at corners where the drivers are trying to catch the drivers out more. So hopefully they'd be like, oh, actually, there's a gap there. He's not going to expect me to attack there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to attack. I'm going to use some of my battery, use some of my boost mode, use some of my overtake mode to get into that corner quicker and make a move happen. Now, that could, of course, be a disaster in terms of contacts and all the other stuff going on. But also, that's the sort of thing where I feel we might get better racing rather than 3 detection points on a track and we know when it's going to open. Driver just cruises around, saves their battery to there. Driver comes in with DRS, and then what happens is they dump the battery with the driver with DRS. That's what's been happening in the current regulations. That's what's been wrong with the current regulations, and that's what's been hindering the overtake side of things. So for me personally, I do hope that, yes, there's a lot for the driver to do. Yes, I do feel it will suit drivers who are better at wheel-to-wheel racing. It will suit drivers who are also better in terms of the sim and managing your car. I don't think the fastest car will win a race. I think the fastest driver will be the driver who can utilise all of these assets in their best way, depending on where the engine manufacturers have got the engines and where the cars are. And just to finish off on that one, before we finish off, because I'm conscious I've downloaded a load of information for you. I'm almost at the 30-minute mark. But going back to engines, so most common question I keep getting asked is, who do I think has got the march for 2026 in terms of the engines? We've been hearing lots of stories. We've been hearing, Mercedes have hit their targets. And we've heard that Honda might be a bit behind, but they've got their act together. Red Bull and Ford have been quietly sort of confident. And also Audi have been remarkably quiet, and Ferrari, as per usual, give us nothing. There are lots and lots of caveats to this. What I will say is, nobody knows, first and foremost, nobody can sit here and say, X team has got a better engine than Y team, because we don't know. We've not seen anything. Now, Toto has been quite honest. What he said was Mercedes have reached all of their targets. What he doesn't know is those targets enough to win you races in the championship? What he's saying is we set a set of internal benchmarks to audit ourselves against, and we've exceeded those internal benchmarks. Now, everyone is interpreting that as Mercedes got the best engine. We don't know that. Their standard might be lower than what Red Bull are doing. So Red Bull might be like up here. Mercedes might be down here. Mercedes are hitting their targets, so are crowing about it. Red Bull are missing their targets, but their base performance is here, which would be above Mercedes. Are you with me? You can see now where actually, just because a team is saying they're doing well, and I keep saying this, no team is going to come out and say their engine's shit. No team is going to come out and say, oh, do you know what? We've designed an absolute humdinger of an engine. It's absolute rubbish. And again, we hear Alpine and their mechanics have gone to Red Bull powertrains. They've gone to Ferrari quite a lot. A lot of unwanted and probably unfounded criticism of Alpine engineers in terms of engine. Alpine had a sub-power engine, 30 brake horsepower, less power, but that was because they couldn't change it. It's not because they didn't know how to, or it wasn't because they didn't want to. They were bound by the engine freeze and the restrictions put in place. The teams and the FIA and Formula One wouldn't let them update their engine. Hence, ultimately they end up pulling out and getting the Mercedes engine. But yeah, what you've got to remember is, with all of this in mind, they've got some good people there who could have fixed that engine, but just couldn't. So those people have now gone off to do other things. Cadillac have got quite a few of the Alpine mechanics on board as well. So don't be surprised to be seeing Alpine people pop up and actually being a success. Don't use that, well, they had a really rubbish season last year, 10th, didn't really perform much, as a reason for them being poor, because actually there was a lot that went into that. And also, they wrote off the season for 2026. We know that as well. So just keep that one back in mind. Mercedes engine in that Alpine could just be a turning point for them. Lots to talk about Christian Horner and Alpine as well before we go. So Christian Horner is trying to buy a stake. He wants a stake, not stake as in the team. That's obviously now Audi, but a stake in a Formula One team, very much like what Toto's got. He doesn't want to just be a team principal. We've covered this. Alpine still resonates that best option for him. That's why he's heavily trying to get the funds and the backing to do that one. He's looking at whether or not he buys the share of the actual investment group that's currently in it, or whether or not he does something a little bit different and comes in alongside them, or what that looks like. So don't be surprised to hear that one being ramped up more. I don't believe for 1 minute that there's any done deal with Christian Horner in Formula One. I don't believe there's any imminent return. I think that he's open to most options. I think he's sounding out all these options. We heard Andy Cowell talk about it in one of the press conferences where he said that, Christian's been sort of going around everybody else. Don't be surprised if we still see that. The problem that Christian's got is he's run out of friends in the paddock when actually he probably needs them to get back into Formula One. So I'm not sure how much money or backing that Christian's got to get in Formula One. It's not like when Toto got his share. Toto got his share for a bargain compared to nowadays. But yeah, that's the situation with Christian Horner. He is in talks. And talking about engines, let's just give a quick run through, if I can find it, over who has what for 2026, because there are some changes and there are some things that are being moved around. So it's good to remember that one. And bear with me 1 second. So McLaren will once again have Mercedes engines. As we know, Mercedes will naturally have Mercedes engines. Red Bull Racing will have the Red Bull powertrains Ford engines. Ferrari will have Ferrari. Williams will once again continue with Mercedes. Racing Bulls will take that Red Bull powertrain Ford engine. Aston Martin will have a Honda sole supply, so technically a Honda Works one. Haas will once again team up with Ferrari. Kick Sauber is obviously now gone and will be Audi with Audi powertrains. That's the only team they're supplying. Alpine take on the Mercedes power unit. And then, of course, we got Cadillac coming in who will take on the Ferrari power unit. So hopefully that helps you with a quick reminder over who's got what. And let me see if I can just find the testing dates for you as well, because those are coming there. So we've got a private behind closed doors, January the 26th to January the 30th, which is in Barcelona, followed by 2 back-to-back public tests in Bahrain, February the 11th to February the 13th, and February the 18th until February the 20th. And then, of course, season opener is in Australia because of Ramadan, which means that we're not in Bahrain. So that's the deal with that one. And then in car launches, let's see what we got for that one. So we have had quite a few now. So we have January the 15th, which will be Red Bull and Racing Bulls. That is a joint launch with Ford. January the 20th will be the Audi reveal. That one's in Berlin. The Red Bull one is in Detroit. Then we've got January the 20th will be a Honda reveal of the engine, not a Aston Martin reveal. January 23rd will be Alpine. That one is in Barcelona to obviously go alongside being there for the testing. Haas have already announced that they're going to do January the 23rd. They said that they're going to do it as part of a online launch, which is something they do quite often. Cadillac are, of course, going on February the 8th. They're going during the Super Bowl Sunday commercials. Aston Martin will be on February the 9th in terms of the actual car launch there. And that leaves still McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Williams to be decided. So we haven't heard anything from those teams as of yet. Don't think we're going to get many shakedowns because we're going to Barcelona straight away. So that will act as a shakedown. I don't think the teams want to risk teams getting a sneaky peek of their cars. which always happens at Silverstone. So don't be surprised if we don't hear of many shakedowns. There might be a couple still, but yeah, that is pretty much all I've got for you. That is 2025. I just want to again say thank you for the support. It means the world to me. I can't believe how many people tune in to the podcast, the website, the social medias. Yeah, it all started in this shed. It's what 3 years in the making now. It's grown to some just beyond. It just staggers me. It really just staggers me that so many of you actually have warmed to me and appreciate what goes into it, and I appreciate you all listening and commenting. I still read all the comments. I still try and answer all the comments where I can. So please keep commenting. Please keep liking, posting, sharing. It's great to see other people doing stuff as well. I've been a little bit humbled. I must admit, I've been helping people with Coffee Corner. Has been doing some university case studying, some helping with some school projects and stuff where people have been asking for help and stuff like that. I get really touched when that happens, that people actually, one, see Coffee Corner Motorsport as somewhere to ask for help, and two, that I can give something back to people who ultimately, support the page. And I say this so many times, but without any of you, none of this would be possible. So thank you all. I hope you all keep well over the holiday season and back in the new year. Like I say, I've got some really exciting plans for Coffee Corner Motorsport. We've been investing in infrastructure. We've been reinvesting in making things a lot better. Then you might have noticed a sneaky change of scenery on a couple of things. The shed is great. The shed isn't going anywhere. However, the shed can't do everything I need it to do when I need it. So there is something else that's been kind of being built in the background to help Coffee Corner Motorsport. That's helped get what I've got set up coming for 2026. So I can't wait to share with you what's coming for that one. You've hopefully noticed a change in the socials in terms of how we bring stuff. What I'm trying to do is make it a lot easier. I don't believe in chasing, videos which are too long when they don't need to be. So I've been trying to make things a lot snappier, make things a lot more user-friendly. So hopefully you notice a difference on that one. It's all good. It's all positive. And 2026, like I say, I'm excited. I use 2025 to find myself a bit and find where I am in this sport. I'm open, honest. You all know that. And for me, it's been a real struggle to put some health issues aside at the start of the year. I've been on a weight loss journey. That's like monumental in terms of just sheer willpower, what it takes. Believe me, when you're up all night and you have to exercise and do other bits and do content, do everything else, and I'm not moaning, I'm not saying that I've got it hard, far from it, but it's draining at times. I'm going into 2026 feeling a lot better, a lot more healthier. Some things will always be there in terms of health-wise, and have to find a way to live with things, which is, one of those things. But for me, I really appreciate it. It may have seemed a bit quieter than usual, but I kind of feel like I've found myself. I feel like I've taken time to understand why I got into this in the first time. So making memories with Dad, experiencing things. We didn't make it to Qatar, but for me, it's about family first, and also it's about why I started this in the first place, and that is because I enjoy this sport. I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I've kind of become a fan again, and do you know what? I'd recommend it to anyone because it's really good. It's really good to find that again. And I found my place in the sport. I'm not a creator who will do lots of TikTok trends, and I'm not someone who's going to pretend that I will do that, because that's just not me. And people who follow me know that. So I don't think I'm shattering anyone's illusions that you're not going to get me TikTok dancing. But likewise, I also feel it's really important to stick to what you want to do and what I want to do. And Coffee Corner Motorsport has been always about bringing factual, up-to-date news, bringing you the best news, the most accurate news, in a way that you can understand it, in a way that hopefully it helps describe some of the backstory behind stuff as well, so some of the understanding behind it. And by doing that, I hope that we will continue to grow. I hope that actually, next year is as successful as I want it to be, because for me, that's what it's always been about. And I like to think we haven't moved away from those morals in a world where it's quite easy to move away from those sometimes. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm really proud of what we stuck to. Things this year took a lot harder to get going, like the website and stuff like that, but now it's there, now it's up and running. It's what I wanted it to be. It's what I've always wanted it to be. And I'm not going to claim to be some media journalist. I've not done a degree on things. When I write, I've got terrible grammar. I'm part dyslexic. It's an absolute nightmare. I've got ADHD. All those things are, are probably the worst things ever. My attention span, even when I'm doing a podcast, I have to put everything on Do Not Disturb, because I just get sidetracked by everything. So it is tough, but I'm really pleased with, we've got formats, we've got structures, and we've got things going forward. And like I say, with what's coming, that's quite exciting. So thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for being here. Happy holidays to you all. Hope you have a great holiday, and I will see you all soon, sooner than you think, because I'm not going anywhere for the winter. Tuesday lives are still here on TikTok, so if you're about and you want to chat Formula 1, Tuesday 9 p.m. UK time, normally run a bit late, but pop in, have a chat about Formula 1, get going on that one. Check out the website, like I said before, coffeecornermotorsport.com is the place. That will be updated all the way through the winter break, almost said summer break there, as all the news comes through as well. So once again, happy holidays, catch you all later, have a good one, enjoy the break, I'll see you soon.